Hello, and welcome to the Narrowing Path, Walking the Spiritual Walk. My name is Steve Van Eiderstein. Thank you all for joining me tonight as we do the next installation from the chapter Hidden Sacrifices in the book Byways of Blessedness by James Allen. So what we're going through right now is a chapter in this book right here, Byways of Blessedness by James Allen. I believe it was released in 1909. Was the original trademark date, which I do not see on here, but the and what this chapter is about is these behaviors that we still hold on to, that some of us even think we have them as part of our personality. We've talked about impatience, we've talked about self-indulgence, we've talked about a couple of things now, and so I'm looking forward to the next one. And go ahead, give us a like, a subscribe, a follow, whatever you're watching us on. It is appreciated. We're on Facebook, obviously, here on YouTube, also Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Instagram and TikTok. So appreciate all the support we've been getting across all the platforms. So thank you so much for all of that. Now, let's go ahead and we're going to get right into it. So we are reading a couple of paragraphs today, and I do the reading out of this book, this copy from, I think it was 1915 is the earliest date I've seen on it. But when I go and I have all my notes and stuff, I have it written in this copy. You can get this copy on Amazon. I forget how much I paid for it, but yeah, this is the one I actually mark all up and write in and have all the good time with. So I'm going to read out of this book because I like reading out of the earlier copies just for accuracy's sake. And then we'll go do the more in-depth analysis and review with this one. So here we go. This is the next couple of paragraphs in Hidden Sacrifices in the book Byways of Blessedness by James Allen. Very far-reaching in its effect upon others, and rich with the revelations of truth for him who makes it, is the sacrifice of self-assertion, the giving up of all interference with the lives, views, or religion of other people, substituting for it an understanding, love, and sympathy. Self-assertion, or opinionativeness, is a form of egotism or selfishness, most generally found in connection with intellectualism and dialectical skill. It is a blindly presumptive and uncharitable, and, more often than not, is regarded as a virtue. But when once the mind has opened to perceive the way of gentleness and self-sacrificing love, then the ignorance, deformity, and painful nature of self-assertion become apparent. The victim of self-assertion, setting up his own opinions as the standard of right and the measure of judgment, regards all those as wrong whose lives and opinions run counter to his own, and, being eager to put others right, is thereby prevented from putting himself right. His attitude of mind brings about him opposition and contradiction from people who are anxious to put him right. And this wounds his vanity and makes him miserable, so that he lives an almost continual fever of unhappy, resentful, and uncharitable thoughts. There can be no peace for such a man, no true knowledge, and no advancement until he sacrifices his desire to bend others to his own way of thinking and acting. Nor can he understand the hearts of others and enter lovingly into their strivings and aspirations. His mind is cramped and embittered, and he is shut out from all sweet sympathy and spiritual communion. He who sacrifices the spirit of self-assertion, who in his daily contact with others puts aside his prejudices and opinions and strives both to learn from others and to understand them as they are, who allows to others perfect liberty, such as he exercises himself, to choose their own opinions, their own way in life, such a man will acquire deeper insight, a broader charity, and a richer bliss than he has hitherto experienced, and will strike a byway of blessedness from which he was formerly shut out. And that's where we're stopping on this section, because there is a lot of information in there, to say the least. And this is one that, to be quite honest with you, I'm not sure how it will be received. When I first read it, again, I've read this book specifically many times, not as much as a Man Thinketh necessarily by James Allen, but Byways of Blessedness is the one I've read the second most likely. And especially this chapter, because I keep returning to this chapter. And specifically, I return to this section in this chapter about self-assertion. Now, when I first read this, it was conflicting for me. I didn't believe this part, which is interesting, right? I believe, I don't think I've read something by James Allen that I don't believe, actually. So when I came across something that actually gave me a conflict that I didn't agree with, that means I needed to look at it. So I had to put a lot of thinking into this, but I also had to put a lot of, have a lot of openness and a lot of willingness to look at things differently, you know. And the funny part is the one I had the most problem with, the one I had the most opinion about, was the one that was about asserting your own opinions. So it's kind of ironic, I guess. But I love this now. I absolutely love this. I absolutely found, and accepting this as truth, this section specifically, and in accepting this as truth, I have found so much more peace of mind, so much more serenity and peace of soul, so much more love for other people, and tolerance, and understanding, and kindness, and compassion, and freedom. Freedom is what this practice has given me, and I didn't know I was missing that. And I hope you get that out of this too. And these 4 paragraphs, I think is all it was. 4 paragraphs. 1, 2. Oh, it's only 3 paragraphs. These 3 paragraphs opened my eyes to a sort of arrogance I didn't realize I had. So let's go ahead. We'll get into this. It's amazing what you don't realize you're holding on to. So I'm very grateful for this. So here we go. We're just going to go through a little bit, or we'll go through it line by line, because I have, again, I think I have almost every single sentence underlined. A couple of words not highlight, or every single sentence highlighted, most of the words underlined too, along with it for emphasis and things. But it's there's so much to be had out of this. So let's just get into it. So very far-reaching in its effect upon others, and rich with revelations of truth for him who makes it. So this isn't just one. You know, we talk about byways of blessedness, and so far, primarily, I mean, we've had a little bit of reference to others. But he's coming right out here, and the first thing he says is that if you practice this one, this will have a significant impact on the people around you, right? That byways of blessedness usually is referring to ourselves, but this one opens right up with, this one's going to impact those around you as well. And rich with revelations of truth, right? This one's going to actually allow you to accept more genuine truths about the world than anything else thus far, right? Pretty tall order. Pretty encouraging, actually. Pretty intimidating, even for some, I'm sure. So, it is a sacrifice of self-assertion, the giving up of all interference with the lives and views or religion of other people. Self-assertion, right? unsolicited advice, taking an opinion on how other people are living, on what other people are doing, right? Especially a condemning opinion. This is a very important part of this. To have an opinion on what you think a person should be doing or what is right is included in this, but I believe it's a certain amount of emphasis needs to be placed on opinions that are condemning of what the other person is doing, right? Because that instantly provides a conflict between you and the other person. You're putting yourself at a higher spot. That judgment and that condemnation makes it so you feel better about yourself. You are right, they are wrong type of situation, which really doesn't help anybody, which really puts everybody in a lose-lose situation. And you just don't realize it. And you think you're genuinely trying to help somebody, and then you'll get resentful, right? Because why don't they just listen to me? Why won't they don't they understand I'm just trying to help them? And if they just listen to me, their life would be better, right? But instead of doing that, we're supposed to, as he says here, substitute it for an understanding, love, and sympathy. So we're not supposed to sit and look at how they're living, how the religion that they're practicing, their perspectives on things, the could be worldview, a political view, a family value, whatever it might be, right? We're not supposed to sit there and tear that apart and be extremely critical and negative and condemning. We're supposed to be practicing love and sympathy, right? So he gives us the self-assertion and judgment piece of this, and then he says this is what it needs to be replaced with. So right out the gate, he's talking about how important this is for all of for everybody, not just yourself, but he's talking about how important it is for absolutely everybody. And then he's also talking about he identifies what it is, and he identifies the behaviors to replace it with, right? So we get it all at the front end, know what we're setting ourselves up for. A lot in that first sentence. So again, this is giving up of all interference with the lives, views, or religion of other people. Self-assertion or opinionativeness is a form of egotism and selfishness, most generally found in connection with intellectualism and dialectical skill, right? So it is taking your opinion and pushing it onto somebody else when it's solely your opinion and they've got one just like you, right? So it's sitting there and saying, hey, I have this arrogance and this selfishness about me. I'm going to take my opinion, force it upon you, right? Because I believe I'm right. That's what this self-assertion is doing. And it's really just feeding our ego. Like I was saying earlier, makes us feel superior, makes us feel like we're doing better than somebody else, makes us feel like we're on a higher level or a higher plane than them, right? We use our opinions to justify our own insecurities. Is what it is at the end of the day. I didn't realize I was doing that. I didn't realize I only held opinions so I would feel better about myself. I didn't realize I would judge people just so I'd feel better about myself. That was a new understanding for me. Actually, that was a new perspective for me to see and take into consideration that I didn't care so much about my opinions because they were right. I cared because they made me feel better. That's not the right reason to go around telling people how to live. Because if I told you how to live and you did it, that validated me. It was extremely selfish. It was extremely self-centered. It was extremely offensive to many people, I'm sure, right? And it was no way to live. And most of the time, it is generally found in connection with intellectualism and dialectical skill. So if you can articulate your words, if you can speak well, if you can, if you have a very high ability to comprehend and dissect and logic and reason things out, right? You convince yourself your opinion's correct. You convince yourself that because I have this ability, I'm able to come to these understandings, and because I have the ability to come to these understandings must be true, and therefore, due to my due to qualities I inherently have, that makes my opinion right and your opinion wrong, right? The funny part is, it's not even necessarily qualities a person definitely has, right? Not that I definitely have. If I think I have them, is all that's required. Whether I'm an intellectual or not, all I got to do is believe I am, and then I can convince myself that my opinions are right because I believe I'm an intellectual. And that's a pretty dangerous game, actually, because you're batting way out of your league. And it causes a whole bunch of problems, and you just become arrogant and egotistical and horrifically insecure, because when that happens, you know it's happening on some level, and you're scared of being found out too. So, egotism, selfish, most generally found in connection with intellectualism and dialectical skill, right? And those complement it very well, because if it's well spoken and well thought out, then it must be right. Not necessarily. Most of the times, not. The most foundational truths are usually simple. They don't need to be explained in such a way that people will get lost most of the time. They're usually straightforward and able to be explained rather quickly. So, right, dialectical skill. It is blindly presumptive. Again, right? Like, it just self-assertion is presumes that we know something that you do not, that we have experience that you do not, that you want the information that we have, right? And you should believe the information that we have is true and honest. There's a lot of presumption that goes there. There's even more, I'm sure, if we just tore it apart for a little bit longer, but I don't want to make this podcast 3 hours long. It's a presumptive and uncharitable. And more often than not, this is the kicker on this sentence, is regarded as a virtue. Usually self-assertion is regarded as a virtue, right? Like, look how much wisdom this person is sharing with them. Look at how much time he's taking out to explain to them how to do these things, and to inform them of their bad behavior and why they should correct it. Right there, it's an arrogance hidden within and packaged up in a virtue of potential altruism and kindness. All right, but when once the mind has opened to perceive the way of gentleness and self-sacrificing love, then the ignorance, deformity, and painful nature of self-assertion become apparent. I just want to check something right now. Okay. Painful nature of self-sacrifice, or painful nature of self-assertion become apparent. Okay, that's what I thought. For some reason, I thought it had a different set of words in the main text, but it doesn't. So, more often than not, is regarded as a virtue when open-minded to perceive the way of gentleness, self-sacrificing love, and the ignorance, deformity, and painful nature of self-assertion become apparent. So, we run around and we still believe that this is what the right thing is to do. This is what the right intentions are for us, what we're supposed to be actually taking action on, right? And then we find out this isn't what's supposed to be going on, right? When you actually stop trying to do that and you open yourself up to gentleness and self-sacrificing love, then you see the ignorance of your own ways, right? You see how defensive you are over your own opinions and how much you clash with others because of that, right? And how much it's just a negative net impact on everybody you're trying to do this with, right? When you're trying to go give unsolicited advice, when you're trying to tell other people how to live without having any right to tell anybody else how to live, right? When you're trying to assert your opinion on someone else, especially when they have no interest in receiving it, it's really harming you. And let's say you do have some honest truth. Let's say you do have some good information. If you're going and shoving it down someone else's throat, it's never going to get received. It will always be resisted because they are not turning to choose and invite it in, right? So it is just going to be constant conflict. And it just provides so much tension and so much pain and so much misunderstanding, right? And to yourself and to others, right? It makes a lot of people uncomfortable. It makes a lot of people angry and frustrated. And you might say, well, they're angry and frustrated because they want to hear the truth. No, because it's not the truth that's making them angry and frustrated. It's the fact that you're trying to tell them what to do that makes them angry and frustrated. And as soon as you do that, whether you're telling them about truth or not, right, it's viewed as just your opinion, and then it's just a battle. So you lose every time you do that. So, all right. The victim, so ourselves, the one who practices it, of self-assertion, setting up his own opinions as the standard of right and the measure of judgment. I've got to stop. Well, let me read. Regards all those as wrong, whose lives and opinions run counter to his own. So, the victim of self-assertion, so ourselves, what is happening is we set ourselves up to be judge, jury, and executioner, as they say. We set ourselves up to be the end-all, be-all. We put ourselves in a position where we hold the standard that everyone else has to live up to. We hold the standard that everyone else should be trying to achieve, right? We set the standard of right and the measure of judgment, right? And anyone that differs from that is wrong. And we disguise our ego-feeding behaviors as kindness and empathy and compassion and just trying to help somebody else up, right? Trying to inform them of the error of their ways. It's amazing to realize that we've been just running around feeding our egos, claiming humility. It's kind of that in and of itself is a humbling thing. So we regard those as wrong, whose lives and opinions run counter to our own, and being eager to put others right is thereby prevented from putting himself right. We get so concerned, like we talk about this in a lot of different ways. It could be in 12-step recovery. It could be in therapy. It could be just people in life talking about how we get distracted by going and trying to tell everyone else how to run their life. We don't even take a look at ours, right? We become so invested in our opinions being right that we don't leave space for our opinions to potentially be wrong or to be revised and change and grow with us, right? Like every opinion we have is not the first opinion regarding that topic that we've had, right? It's grown, it's evolved. There's been depth and understanding and perspective all been mashed together to get the understanding that you have and trying to get into the truth and core of something. Yes, but when you stop believing that there's more to learn, when you stop believing that you might have some places in your belief structure or your opinions that need to be revised, right? You set yourself against everybody else. You believe you are this measure and the standard they need to live up to. If they don't, they are wrong, and they should just recognize that. And then you don't allow yourself to be put right. You're so distracted with putting everyone else right, you lose your own way. I have seen this happen, actually, where people get lost in this. They get lost in their own opinions. They get lost in their understandings and trying to make everyone else see what they think they see or believe what they believe to be right. And they end up just pushing everybody else away and then they have to recommit so drastically to their own opinions and assertions that they can't even entertain the possibility that they might be wrong. And then they get stuck. They get stuck in that rut, and they're just battling everybody that comes along. It's heartbreaking, actually, to see that happen, right? They can't tolerate any criticism. They can't tolerate any contradiction. It's heartbreaking. His attitude of mind brings about him opposition and contradiction from people who are anxious to put him right, right? When you run around doing this, you're going to find the other people that are trying to do it, and you're going to clash head on every single time. Because everybody that practices this self-assertion, this self-proclamation of righteousness, right? Of I'm right, you're wrong. Self-righteousness, I guess, right? This is spiritual arrogance, some might call it, whatever your terminology is. You're going to find the other people that are doing it too, that have conflicting opinions. And then guess what? You're going to be surrounded by opposition and contradiction. And there's going to be a lot of people that are really enthusiastic about how right they are, talking to other people that are really enthusiastic about how right they are. And guess what? You get just conflict. And there's never going to be anything that can settle that. There's never going to be any resolution to that, because no one's actually listening to each other. They're just talking at each other. It's a really bad problem we have today in today's society, at least in the Western world, where people aren't actually having conversations anymore. People are going and just shoving their opinion and their will down someone else's throat and saying, you have to accept this because I know it's true. And that's never going to work. It just provides a hostile environment, a sense of tension and frustration for everybody involved, including the person that thinks they're right. And they go into this, right? And so the people who are anxious to put him right, so he brings about him opposition and contradiction from the people who are anxious to put him right. And this wounds his vanity. Right? My ego's hurt. I look bad because this person's trying to tell me, hey, you're actually wrong about this. Hey, let's have a difference of opinion here, right? So two people are clashing, and then both take it personally. Both are sitting there going, well, you can't be right because I'm right. And I can't be wrong. Right? They have this egotistical attachment to their opinions. So it wounds his vanity and makes him miserable. Miserable. How many people do you know that are miserable and are some of the most opinionated people out there? I know tons of them that they hold so dearly to their opinion that it makes them absolutely miserable. Now, if you're holding on to opinions and perspective and assertions that make you miserable, you might want to reevaluate what you're doing. You might have some truth in there, but the way you talk about it and engage with it and you conduct yourself with it might have a problem. Right? That's what this is talking about. It's not always saying that your opinion's wrong. It's the fact that you're trying to always get in an argument and always force it upon other people. That's the problem. And that provides the conflict. So it makes him miserable so that he lives in an almost continual fever of unhappy, resentful, and uncharitable thoughts. You just start plotting and scheming, and you start wishing people ill will, right? You start wishing other people harm even, right? Because they wounded your ego. They took a shot at your pride, right? They made you look bad. So guess what? Then you're off on this resentment and you're on this spree of what? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And you're just miserable. You're unhappy and you got everyone else to blame because they're just not listening to you. You're such a good person, but no one wants to listen to you, and this is what you get for trying to be a good person, right? That's the mantra of every narcissist I know, right? Every egotistical person that has some narcissistic traits or just being self-absorbed. Honestly, that's really all that boils down to, right? They can't see outside of their own perspective yet. It's possible. I believe it's possible for everybody to actually get out of that selfish and self-centered perspective, but if you haven't, that's what you sound like. So, and uncharitable thoughts. It's also a form of control, right? Because you want everything to conform to your ideas so you actually feel in control of the world around you. Because if your opinions are right and other people buy into your opinions, you can have a control about and an expectation about how the world functions and people are going to function, right? So it gives you a sense of security if you go and believe that your opinions are absolute truth, right? Because if they aren't, then you still have things to learn and there's some unknowns and we don't like the unknowns, right? So it's a form of control. Now, there can be no peace for such a man, no true knowledge, and no true advancement until he sacrifices his desire to bend others to his own way of thinking and acting. Okay? So he doesn't mince words here. He's very straightforward here. There can be no peace for such a man, no true knowledge. Okay? So he does talk about, hey, until you let go of this, you can't even be sure that the knowledge you have is true. You might have some truths, but you can't be absolutely sure of it until you actually let go of this self-assertion, right? Because if you're only trying to learn truth so you can go rub it in someone else's nose in it, then it's tainted, right? It's not actually, there's no integrity with it. There's no genuine desire to help another human being. It's for selfish intent. So you'll have no peace and no true knowledge, and and no advancement. We just were talking about, we're stuck. You get stuck in this rut, right? Where you're just constantly fighting people, one after the other that are trying to assert themselves on you because you're trying to assert yourself on them, right? And it's never a conversation. It's always a battle. So you have to stop the desire to do that, because you can stop doing it all you want, right? You can set all this down with action. But if you don't change the desire in your heart to go be controlling, to go assert your will on other people, to tell other people why they're wrong, to tell them how to live, right? You're still not opening yourself up to new possibilities. You're still staying in the same exact place. You just aren't showing it on the outside, right? In 12-step, they would call that a dry drunk, potentially, right? The only thing you did was stop the behavior. You've stopped the drinking or the drugging. You haven't changed anything else about yourself, right? You're still miserable because you still want to go do the thing. You still want to go drink. You still are living in a way that demands you to, right? But you're not doing it. So guess what? You're just going to end up absolutely miserable. If you still live in a way where you believe you need to go tell everyone else how to live their life, hey, you're still going to be miserable because you're not doing the thing you want to do. And even though when you do the thing you want to do, it results in as much conflict or unhappiness that you have right now, but you'd rather go do it still. So it's not just stopping the behavior, it's stopping the desire to do the behavior too, to change that desire to bend others to his own way of thinking and acting, right? Nor can he understand the hearts of others and enter lovingly into their strivings and aspirations. You don't get a true sense of empathy if you're going around judging everybody. Most people know when you're judging them and being condemning of them, and you're saying things or thinking things that don't allow them to actually connect with you. It feels like you're just getting information to use against them again, or to contradict them or argue with them, right? You can't have a genuine sense of empathy and compassion for anyone else, right? And you can't see things from their perspective. You can't walk a mile in their shoes, as they say. You don't understand what they're trying to actually get at. You don't understand what they're aspiring to do because you're so cocky and sure of yourself that you don't have the space to consider that. And I want to say, I'm using a lot of yous and all this like other language, but I did this for all of my life until I got into recovery, and for most of my recovery up until the most recent few years did I actually accept this, right? This is all applied to me inside and out 100 times over in a million different ways. So when I speak about this and I talk about this, this has substantial meaning to me, and it has a very deep resonance with me. And I know this to be truth. And I hope that when you hear it and you're processing it, that you give it the opportunity to be heard as well. Because living the other way is miserable. Trust me, it's miserable. I've lived the other way. It does nothing. It did nothing for me except for make me think the world was unfair and make me think the world was doomed. And I lost faith in humanity. Very nihilistic with the self-assertive type of behavior. So his mind is cramped and embittered. That's exactly what we were talking about. And he is shut out from all sweet sympathy and spiritual communion. You can't connect with people. If you're just sitting there waiting to tell them how wrong they are, you're never actually going to connect with another human being in a genuine way, vulnerable way, because you're not allowing yourself to have that vulnerability. They might have it, but you can't. And then you feel like no one understands you. You feel isolated and alone with the world because people just don't understand how right you are. It's pretty sad. It's pretty sad. All right. He who sacrifices the spirit of self-assertion. And I like how he says spirit of self-assertion. Like it's something that like possesses us. It's something that gets ingrained within us. It's a spirit that we have. Like, oh, it's a character almost. Like it's a personality. It's like, oh, here we go. This one's kicking in. Let's go. I got to go tell them how wrong they're living their life. And they're going to listen to me if they want to live better, right? No, you're going to just go get in an argument with somebody and then be condemning because they argued back. Like it's incredible, but it's like a something, it fills you up. Like you have to go do it, right? But when you sacrifice that action, when you sacrifice that desire, right? That's what we said, we got to sacrifice the desire to go do it because you think and when we sacrifice something, you're sacrificing the reward you get from it. Really, right? I'm not going to go do that because I don't need my ego validated. I don't need to go impose my will on them so I feel better. So when you sacrifice that spirit of self-assertion, who in his daily contact with others put aside his prejudices, right? Because that's what that is. It's a prejudice. That's a word that gets kicked around a lot right now. But put aside his prejudices and opinions and strives to learn from others. That's what an opinion is. It's a prejudice, right? Or it's a belief in your correctness, right? Or a belief in what's right. So therefore you're prejudiced to all the rest if you have this type of thinking, right? Because you're instantly judging it as wrong or bad or unhealthy, right? It's a style of thinking that really wraps you up in being so opinionated you can put yourself in a position to hate because of that opinion, which really is unfounded. So set aside his prejudices and opinions and strives to learn from others and to understand them as they are. As they are. Not, I don't know what's going on, but do this, right? Like it's what's amazing is when we read through this and I'm talking about this, this goes along with all of the modern therapeutic techniques that are actually effective, right? Person-centered therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, like all of these other styles of processing and restructuring our thinking, right? Or whatever it might be. This goes right along with it. He was talking about this stuff way before a clinician did. That's what I love about this is he's bringing ideas. These are like foundational ideas for actually helping people and helping people change their lives. And he was doing this years ago, 110 years ago, right? Well, 115 at this point, even longer. So it's just amazing to me. You're trying to understand somebody right where they're at and who allows to others perfect liberty. So perfect freedom. And in parentheses, such as he exercises himself, to choose their own opinions, their own way in life, right? We like to use our own liberty to form our own understanding, opinions, and way of life. And then we take our liberty, take the information we've learned from having the freedoms that we do, and we want to go take away someone else's freedom and tell them that they have to behave this way now. Completely contradictive. It's amazing to me that our ego will inflate in such a way and our arrogance will inflate in such a way that we think we can go and just demand everyone else live the way we deem appropriate and have judgments upon what's right and what's wrong, and feel like as though it's our need to actually make sure they know it at every second of the day, right? It's pretty insane to me how everybody in all demographics, on every political side, religious side, socioeconomic side, anything that pick any topic that has a division, and this happens on both sides. And that's what's creating this hurricane of hatred and divisiveness and just people against people that doesn't need to be happening. So it's practicing perfect liberty and allowing other people to practice that perfect liberty, that perfect freedom to do exactly what you're doing, to have an opinion and a way of living that suits them and doesn't harm others. Okay. Such a man will acquire deeper insight, a broader charity, and a richer bliss than he has hitherto experienced. So something you've never even experienced. A lot of us think, I've experienced the joy and these and that's and blessedness, right? But every single thing we're talking about in this chapter is something that if you still practice it and you still have it, there's a certain amount of depth to those joyousness, that blessedness, that happiness, that contentment, that peace in life, that charity, the insight and truth that you haven't experienced yet, because you can only experience when these behaviors are gone. So whatever you think you know all of, there's always more to know and experience. Don't ever sell yourself short because you think you've gotten it all, right? There's always more work to do. And who wouldn't want deeper insight, broader charity, and a richer bliss, right? That can't be your goal. But if you sacrifice self-assertion to be of more genuine help to your fellow man, right? These are beautiful things to be able to see come into your life. Honestly, most of the time, that's what we're pursuing. But in the pursuit of that, we lose the genuine goal of why we're here, to be of service to a God of your understanding and others, right? It's amazing how quickly we miss the mark. So hitherto experienced and will strike a byway of blessedness from which he was formerly shut out. So it hasn't even been available to you until you get rid of this. And I can tell you my own just personal experience with doing this and not just being so invested in my opinions and being right and my ego getting wrapped up in it. You know, this stuff has freed me from so much. I used to be so attached to my opinions, like they were my identity. Like if you disagreed with my opinion, I took it personally. You were disagreeing with me, and that meant you were a bad person. I didn't want you around me anymore, right? You were criticizing me. You were condemning me. They weren't doing that. Well, maybe some of them were, but the reality of it was I was doing that to them, right? My identity was my opinion. One of the biggest things I had to learn in my life was detach from my opinions. Let my opinions be what they are. And know I am separate from them. That allows them to change, that allows them to grow, that allows me to change, allows me to grow, and allows me to become a more understanding and have deeper insights, richer bliss, a broader charity. I have experienced more of those things since I've taken this perspective and realized that I don't need to go tell everybody that they're living wrong and sit there in silent judgment and condemnation of everybody else and what they're doing. I don't need to do that anymore. If you live in such a way that conflicts with my worldview, that's okay. I don't take it personally. It doesn't offend me. You're just doing you. It's a non-emotional response back to anything like that. No, when someone comes to try to assert their opinion onto me, I don't have to take it. I can hear it out. I can explore it with them and not take it personally. And I don't have to agree with them at the end of the day. It's amazing to see how upset sometimes people get when you go through a whole conversation and you don't take it personally. It's calm, cool, collected conversation. Then at the end of the whole thing, you still don't agree, and they actually start getting upset because haven't I explained it well enough that you should understand and agree with me by now? And if you don't, then obviously you're attacking me. I used to be like that, so I can see it now, and it's so sad that people rob themselves of the opportunity to just hold on to their own peace because they're attached to their opinions. It served me in ways I never knew possible to just let that kind of stuff go. And I hope it does for you as well. So that's going to be it for today. Thank you all so much. Fantastic chapter. Absolutely love it. Hope you guys did too. Thanks for following. Thanks for listening. And I'm looking forward to what we get into next time. So I appreciate everybody's support. And until next time, thanks.